Viktor Frankl survived 4 Nazi concentration camps, including Auschwitz. His mother, his father, his brother, and his first wife all died in the camps. If anyone had standing to say something definitive about forgiveness, or its refusal, it was him. What he said was complicated. And it was honest in a way that the popular discourse on forgiveness almost never is. He did not preach forgiveness as an obligation. He did not tell survivors they were obligated to forgive their perpetrators, that holding on to anger was spiritually defective, or that the healthy response to atrocity was a kind of serene absolution. He had too much respect for the reality of what had happened, and too much respect for the people who had survived it, to offer that kind of cheap comfort. But he also understood something about bitterness that his clinical work had shown him clearly. It is a form of captivity. The person who cannot move beyond what was done to them remains, in some essential way, still subject to the person who did it. The perpetrator continues to act upon them long after the original act is over. Every morning the wound is reopened. Every relationship is filtered through the damage. The past, instead of being the granary Frankl spoke of elsewhere, the permanent record of what has been lived, becomes a prison cell. This is the paradox of bitterness. It feels like a form of loyalty to the wound, a refusal to let the perpetrator off the hook. And yet it sentences the wounded person to continue serving the perpetrator's sentence. The victim becomes the jailer of their own suffering. Frankl drew a distinction that is crucial here. Forgiveness, in his view, does not mean erasure. It does not mean declaring that what happened was acceptable, or that the person who did it has been absolved of their responsibility, or that the moral record has been wiped clean. The moral record is not yours to wipe. What happened, happened. The injustice is permanent, in exactly the same way that the good moments of a life are permanent. You cannot revise the past. What forgiveness means, what it can mean, is a release of the claim that your present and future must be defined by what was done to you in the past. It is a decision about where you are going to live. Are you going to live in the wound, or are you going to live forward? That is not the same as saying the wound doesn't exist, or that it was not serious, or that no one is responsible for it. Frankl observed this distinction in the survivors he knew. Some of them emerged from the camps and found, with great difficulty and over long years, a way to live that was not organized entirely around what they had lost and what had been done to them. They carried the memory, of course they did, how could they not, but they were not only the memory. They had other things they were becoming. They had people they loved, work that mattered, reasons to move into the next day that were not reducible to their suffering. Others, and Frankl was compassionate toward them, never judgmental, found that the weight of what they had experienced was simply too much to carry in any direction but backward. They remained in the wound. Not from weakness, but from the sheer enormity of what they had endured. His point was not to judge either group. His point was to ask what was available, what was still possible, even in the aftermath of the worst. And his answer was that the attitude you take toward what was done to you is, ultimately, yours to choose. Not easily. Not quickly. Not without enormous support and time. But it is yours. Forgiveness, in Frankl's sense, is not for the perpetrator. It is not a gift to them. It is a reclamation of your own future. You are not saying what they did was acceptable. You are saying that you refuse to let what they did remain the central organizing principle of your life. That is not cheap. It is, in fact, one of the most difficult things a human being can do. But Frankl believed it was possible. He had seen it. Subscribe to the Psychology of Viktor Frankl to explore more of his timeless ideas.